The following segment is sponsored by Daniel A. White and Associates and does not necessarily reflect the views of this station or Forever Media Incorporated. Rick Jensen on 1150 AM, 1017 FM, WDEL.
You know, whether you're 29, 39, 59, you better start thinking about retirement planning. And that's why we often talk to Dan White and his associates after the news at 1:30 on Wednesdays. On the phone is Andrew Wood. I can just tell by the way you're breathing, Andrew. Yeah, there he is.
Good to be here.
I know. It's Andrew Wood. He's in the Middletown office with today's tip. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Rick,
Great.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you very much. Yeah, you guys, I just want people to know that you guys specialize in retirement income planning. You know, I know you want to talk about the cost of living adjustment, Social Security, but this is pretty huge, isn't it? It's over 5%, as I read. Is that right?
So, yes, that's going to be something that's discussed on Dan's radio show on Sunday morning. I'm actually one of the co-hosts of that program, but that's specifically on those cost of living adjustments. 5.9% this year for those Social Security recipients. Also applies to a lot more than that. So again, that's going to be discussed in further detail on Sunday morning.
All right, Sunday morning, 7 o'clock on the money. Yeah, that's a big one because we're seeing so much inflationary tax right now. The cost of goods and services going up, really because of actions by the government over the last year to 2 years. What else do you think we should be thinking about today?
Sure. So Dan did a program a couple weeks ago regarding spousal IRAs and really ways that you can help really build, retirement nest egg for both spouses, whether, one's still at home, working out of the home. But today what I wanted to talk about is options for spousal beneficiaries, specifically on IRAs. And this is very, very important. God forbid you were to lose your spouse. These are really, really critical times, and obviously they're times of grieving, but it's very important to make sure you're doing what's best for you. So one of the things that I will point out, you really need to be aware of that age that Dan talks about so much. It's that 59 and a half age.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens is, God forbid you lose your spouse, and next thing you know, you have these forms that you have to fill out to make a claim. And they're going to give you multiple options. And what I will tell you is that the first instinct that I see most people kind of have when they inherit money from a spouse is to do typically the first option, which is what we call a spousal rollover.
Yeah.
All right. And in a situation like that, basically what happens is you can roll it into your own IRA, and they treat that money as if it has always been your own. But here's the scenario that you come across, right? So let's just say someone inherits the money and they're only 57 years old, and it's coming from their spouse, and they decide to do a rollover into their own IRA account. More times than not, in that type of situation, that person is probably going to need to get some access to that money. And if they rolled that money into their own IRA account and they're not yet 59 and a half, not only are they going to have to pay taxes, but they're also going to have to pay that early 10% withdrawal penalty.
Wow. Okay, so let's presume there's no life insurance, not enough life insurance. They need the money there for expenses, funerals, things like that, whatever. What do you think someone should do? Let's say they're 55 years old.
Sure, and they're not yet 59 and a half yet.
Yeah,
I would always recommend sitting down and make sure this makes sense for you, but typically the better option in that type of scenario is to remain as a beneficiary. In other words, you basically retitle it as an inherited IRA. Okay, so basically what happens is, as an inherited IRA, they can take the distributions as they need them without the penalty. Yes, there are taxes, but there's no 10% penalty. And once that individual reaches 59 and a half, they can do a spousal rollover. Move it into their own IRA account. Again, They have to pay taxes on any distributions, but there is no early 10% penalty.
Okay. Isn't there a new law now that says if it's an inherited IRA, though, you have to liquidate that puppy within 10 years?
So that is true. Now, as a spouse, as a eligible beneficiary on one of these accounts, an eligible designated beneficiary, they have the option to do that 10-year rule, but they can always do that rollover basically at any point within that 10-year period. So it's really not going to be a problem, that type of situation. Again, they take a distributions in this example until they're 59 and a half, and then they can do a rollover. So
Okay.
it's not going to apply to this type of situation.
Now, with an inherited IRA, though, you do have some minimums that have to be taken out based upon, I think, life expectancy. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so that's to be understood. Well, that makes sense, especially if somebody actually needs some money now anyway. That's not a negative thing at all.
No, I mean, more times than not, in that type of situation, you just lost your spouse, right? And you know, the bills still are there, and you need to pay the bills. And you know, again, that first instinct is typically to roll it into your own IRA or do a spousal rollover. When again, if you're not yet 59 and a half, it may not be the best option.
Well, I'm glad you guys sit around and think of these things, since I wouldn't want to.
It's very important. Again, these are decisions that are critical. Again, nobody wants to be paying more in penalties and taxes than what they should be.
Yeah, but you have to actually consider, you know, all these different iterations and what's going on in people's lives. You have so many clients that they're all different ages and different situations. You have to consider all these different situations, how they might benefit or actually be a detriment to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's all part of the process and getting to know our clients.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you called in with the advice. I had no idea, and sadly, this could happen with someone who's listening to the show right now. So, you know, talk to someone like Andrew over at Dan White and Associates, or any of those folks. They're Middletown, also Glen Mills, just over the border on Route 202 from Delaware. And Sunday morning on the money, 7 a.m. This cost of living adjustment, 5.9%. That's huge. I know you're co-hosting a show on Sunday morning 7 on the money, but I got to ask you this. Do you think that's making up for the cost of goods and services going up over the last, like, say, even 5 years?
You know, I think it's going to help. The question is it going to be enough? And obviously, there's a reason why they're doing it, and the reason is because, you know, the cost of goods have gone up at a pace that we haven't seen, you know, in at least a decade. So, you know, that said, you know, it's certainly going to help. Is it going to be enough? I don't know. I think only time's going to tell.
All right, Andrew. Good stuff. Thanks so much.
All right, you got it. Thanks, Rick.
All right, give him a call, 888-690-8820, 888-690-8820.